quorum.
Fred, give an overview.
And it's right on the one that's posted on the website, by the way, so I don't know why it's wrong on that one. It says FY17. So this is our regular,
I got 16, 17.
The agenda says 16.
this is our regular budget workshop. Finance Director John Semino and I have been meeting with all the departments over the last few months. We've met multiple times, gone over their budget. In the document you have before you, you'll have broken out by department. You will have the department's request and the manager's request. There are some changes in those. On my request, you'll see, and we'll discuss those as we get to each one. They're fairly minor. We've still got a pretty tight budget because we're on the 5-year plan, and so there's not a lot of flexibility in this budget, but we did encourage each department to put down what they felt they needed, and that's what they did. This budget represents a full 4% levy cap increase per the 5-year plan. But due to the preliminary revaluation and growth estimates, we do not anticipate having to raise the tax rate for this budget as presented here in the manager's column. That's preliminary. We still have to get the final numbers in, but it looks like between the reval and the growth rate, we should be able to cover that 4%. And in fact, we might even see a slight decrease in the rate in some areas that we'll discuss at a later date once we have those numbers firm. The reason for the 4% levy increase, again, this is what was projected in the 5-year plan, but the primary reasons are the pension contribution increases per the actuary. Those have gone up on the town side about another $400,000 over last year. There's an increase in the debt service due primarily to the road and senior center bond. And there's also the increase in the school allocation funding request that we'll discuss next week when the school's here. But those are the primary drivers. There's some other drivers that you see in the budget, but those are the big ticket items, if you will, that represent that 4% increase. So at this point, we will go through, we'll bring up each department. I will tell the full council there's some of the directors have been stricken with various illnesses, and they were pretty serious to the point that they couldn't be here tonight. And that is Department of Public Works, Dave Lombari, the town planner, Mark, is also not able to be here, and the tax collector, Rose Silva, is not able to be here. So they will be available next week, hopefully. That their issues are resolved by then. But we can go through the budget if you'd like to tonight, answer any questions, because we did meet with each department, and if there are any questions that we cannot respond to, we can do a call back next week, so we don't have to expend more time than necessary on them, or we can just postpone them until next week. We'll leave that to your discretion.
No, we can, what I was thinking, because the department heads who are here and the departments that are here, we can go with them first, and then we can go over the other departments who aren't here, and we can discuss it. If we have any questions, they can just answer it first next time,
Yep.
if you can't answer it.
Yeah, that's
Or
fine.
any disagreements, or whatever it may be.
Yeah. Some of, I know like Mark's is, I think, exactly the same as last year, so there's not a lot to respond to. He didn't ask for anything extra, so.
We
So-
go minus 10% though, he didn't meet that.
No, he didn't meet the -10, yeah.
All right, instead of going in order, since everybody, like you said, everybody's sick, why don't we start off with human resources, which is,
The tax assessor's here.
oh, I'm sorry, we both have the same distance drive home, right? All right, tax assessor.
What's that, 17, tax assessor?
It's page 17 of the document that was distributed as well to the council.
Nice.
I'm making on-
Tabs.
I'm just going to start off for a second and just mention that the first few items of the budget, general wages, the department head, and various salary and benefits is driven by the personnel supplement that we had previously mentioned, which the council also has a copy of, a schedule behind that document that you see in your binder that actually shows you where those amounts come from. The departments did, if they did have a request for a change in personnel, it is reflected in the department column, and if it's something that the manager recommended, it does follow through. Other than that, we'll just go through, I'll let Christine talk on some of the various line items.
Hi, good evening.
Welcome to your first budget, Wes.
Yeah. Thank you. So I looked over what was spent previously, and I know that, just going down the column, we tried to keep it in line with what we've seen in history. As we go down, the computer services and professional services, we have seen some increases, but those just have to do with they haven't had increases in a couple of years, so they both had an increase this year. And tried to break out some, instead of just mostly going with supplies and expenses, tried to break out some of the other parts of the budget per John's request. So there is some educational and memberships that are broken out independently.
And there is, you will see also in your binder that there is a document that breaks out some of the various components that make up some of these totals, in particular professional services, conferences, travel, and memberships.
And really, the only change that I made with the request from the department was I did increase the overtime number slightly from $200 to $1,000, just knowing that office, although we do have a floater now, and that should cut down on the overtime expense. I just wanted to give them more flexibility. We're already up to $954 through February, so I think it's prudent to increase that. I also dropped the requests for conference travel, not because I don't think that it's deserved. I think it's important, and I stress to all the departments that not just the directors, but the staff should have the opportunity to do some of the extra learning and the conferences and those types of things. It's just, this is more on an equity standpoint. It's a two-person office, and if you look at the other department requests, this is the highest one. Now, there's reason for that, in that this office in particular, the deputy hasn't been offered the opportunity to go to anything since she's been in that position. So again, I stress that, it's important that our deputies are trained, because the whole purpose of having deputies is that they can take over when the individual's not there, and Christine's been doing a great job getting Ann up to speed, and I strongly encourage that, Ann, joins associations and gets involved and is able to carry on that role if Christine's not in the office. But I just tried to equalize it a little bit, but I'm not, if the council sees fit to grant the full amount, I'm fine with that too. It's just that I'm trying to, looking at the other budgets, I try to bring it in line a little bit.
And as you were saying, the training portion of it is huge, because Christine decides, I'm going to move on to somewhere else 5 years from now. It's always good to hire from within, and if you can promote, it makes it a lot easier for us.
Or if we're stuck without somebody for a prolonged period of time, to have somebody that can
Fully
pick
understand.
up the reins, it's critical.
Computer services, is that software, hardware, or what is that?
It's two softwares. So it's the CAMA software and the administration software. So the CAMA software houses where we keep the field cards for all the property values and land values. And then the other one, the administration program, is what produces the bills. So that would be motor vehicles, personal property, and then we end up putting the real estate into that.
Okay, so it's really not repairs, it's mainly software.
No, the five-year plan calls for $154,734.
Well, you gotta
You're
look,
recommending $184,987. We're $30,200 over.
John,
you wanna just explain that to, actually, Angela,
Taxes and benefits are
Angela, if you
moved over
look
from general
at-
government. See it right here.
and John's gonna explain it right now, but there's 6 line items there that
Now
were
divide
not in
them
this
up, put
budget
them in.
in the 5-year plan. He just separated it.
Oh, so now,
Well, they were in the 5-year plan, but they were in the general
Different
government.
Yeah, so
So now we
when we
can
look
see
at
it.
general government,
Oh,
that should be significantly lower.
correct.
Because all those things that go to the departments.
Yeah.
Correct, and if you look at the bottom of each budget document, you'll see there's a total without benefit allocations, so that you can actually compare the 5-year amount to the amount without the benefit allocation as well as without benefit allocation compared to the department request.
actually less than 5 years.
Not to call it like a funky budget, but for somebody on the outside that's viewing this, is there like a cover letter or something that explains this? Because this is a major change that somebody that doesn't look at these that often look at this and say, what the hell's going on here?
Right.
So-
Well, what I did, Fred and I discussed it, and Fred had recommended that in the summary, or on the summary page, which is page 2 in the handout, as well as page 2 in your binder, it actually has the department request, the benefit allocation column that actually shows the change or the shift, and then what actually is the manager. So
Yeah, because
we can
the-
do some further, explanation, but
Myself looked at it, it looked like a $34,000
That's-
increase.
again, that's-
$30,200 increase.
John?
that's
John-
why if you look at the totals without benefit allocation at the bottom, that will make, that'll show you what the number is without that allocation or
Yeah, John-
reallocation.
John brought this up at the last council meeting when he gave his briefing of the budget. He explained that in each budget, you're gonna see an increase because he's showing you the actual cost for each one of those line items for that department. So that way there, when you see that, you'll see the increase, but like Dave said earlier, you're gonna see a big difference on the general government side.
Correct.
Decrease, I'm sorry.
If you look in the past years, this is actually the lowest budget it's been in the last 3 years. And the reason for that is basically that since Ray retired, that longevity goes away. And those types, so that was a gain. So this is actually lower than the 5-year plan and lower than the previous budget.
And as far as the, allocation of the benefits, we're looking to get to a true departmental budget, which is why we're looking to allocate a portion to the departments. And as I had previously mentioned at the council meeting last week, we're also looking to actually have a personnel supplement included in the budget this year, similar to the document that you see on each department page, where it has the employee positions listed as well as the salary, benefits, payroll costs, and all the associated costs that come into play with those positions. So to get to the departmental budget, we felt it was proper to allocate the benefits accordingly, including the normal cost of the pension, taking out the unfunded portion, which will remain in general government.
So Angelo, going back to your statement, the fiscal year is for 17 for the 5-year plan was 154,734. If you take out those 6 line items, our budget for the assessor's office is 152,371. So it is $2,400 less than the 5-year plan. I'm saying.
Actually, it's 151 if you look at the bottom
No,
of
it's
that page.
$800. Add the $800 for Fred. Add $800 for Fred's budget. I'm
Okay.
taking that.
I got
Because
you.
he added $1,000 for the overtime. So the actual budget, if you take away those 6 line items, is 152,371.
Okay.
What's the council's feeling on the department request for conference travel versus the manager's recommendation? I like how it's itemized, and you just talked about how useful it would be. So,
Well, I looked in the previous years, I didn't use it.
Right.
So I did 35.
do you think it would be utilized?
I think it was used, it just wasn't itemized, so it was all in expenses and supplies and
Oh, under
expenses.
supplies and
So
expenses.
this was more, yeah.
that you can see that. I think
that's Okay.
important that you understand what's being spent where.
How many conferences does $1,200 difference entitle you to?
That would probably be a conference.
How many conferences does that consist of?
This breakout that she provided.
It's 2 pages over the breakout.
So there's the Rhode Island Assessors Association, which we have quarterly meetings. And then there's the Northeast Regional, and then there's the International Assessors Association.
So really, this difference is like the International Assessors Association value, because you said it says 1266.
Yeah.
I'm tempted this early on in this budget
Yeah.
process to go with the manager's.
Yeah,
Assessment of this for now.
I'm favoring the managers right now too, to see where we're going with this budget.
I have it highlighted, so we can go back and discuss. Any other questions for Christine? Thank you.
Thank you.
That was easy for you, the first one.
Did you do assessment review too,
You
Dave?
should have been here 5 years ago.
How long ago?
Dave,
5 years ago.
did
One
you
out
do
of 10.
assessment review too?
Yes, assessment review, which tab is that in?
Assessment review.
Next
Page
one over.
18. Page
Next,
18.
next one,
Next
page
one.
18 on the document.
Pretty basic,
Yeah, this one's pretty
Assessment
straightforward.
review.
still under the 5-year plan of $30, 20-something dollars, $25,
Review.
$35, I don't know.
On page 18.
I don't have a calculator in front of me.
It's not on our, it's not on our,
It's right underneath.
oh, assessment. What do we got here?
Again, I don't have any questions here. It's very simple.
Benefits, what were the benefits?
Payroll taxes.
In this case, yeah, just payroll taxes.
You're all set, Christine?
All right, thank you.
The Human resources. Is this your first budget or second? Yeah, you're on the second.
What page?
She's getting to be a rookie. Oh, well, you're making her a rookie, Dave.
And as someone just said, this is page 6 of the document.
Or the human resources tab.
Well, the human resource tab, thinking for the public that may be following. And again, same as I mentioned with the assessors, we have the personnel supplement that you also have that drives the first 3 or 4 items, with the exception of the overtime and the sick bonus, because the overtime and the sick bonus, we don't know who actually would receive it, although in this case we do, because there's only one person who's entitled, but those items, as well as the benefits, are all driven by the supplement. So it's basically down to 5 items that actually are line items that Karen actually has requests for.
Was the human resource in the 5-year plan? Is that why, because it says 5-year plan, 9,700?
It was not, it was
No.
not part of it. They recommended that we hired somebody, but they didn't
They didn't
put it into the budget, so that's an addition.
So let me ask you, now that we've gone pretty much a year with the human resource department, how's it working out for the town?
I think it's working out very well. It's been much better for all the department heads to deal with issues instead of having to deal with them themselves or take everything to the manager. They are utilizing Karen in that office daily. I mean, it gets in. I think we're seeing changes. I mean, we're getting a lot of pushback from the unions. I'll tell you that the way that we are enforcing things now and holding them to a certain level of behavior, but it's been I think it's been very positive, and we're seeing the effects. So
Good.
I noticed your
It's the cost of doing
line
business.
is the exact same line as the
good
manager.
line.
Oh, absolutely.
You wanted to add.
It's worth every penny.
That was my thought.
No,
Exactly.
I'm good, thank you.
Advertising,
Let me just, go ahead.
what is advertising? Is that paperwork for the
That,
employees and stuff?
that is, no, advertising is actually the cost to advertise positions that we have available,
Oh, okay.
or any recruitment process that we're going through, like now, we're doing the police officer recruitment. I'm very frugal when it comes to advertising. A lot of people don't use print ads anymore, and they're very costly, and I think, that's a number that perhaps reflects some print ads, and so I've tried over the last year doing it a little differently, using electronic
I saw it on
ads.
Channel
And
10.
yeah, well, and you know what, we got the Department of Labor runs those ads for us for free. We get the announcements out there. Excuse me, so, so you can see, I had a significant number in there, but yet you see where I am today, I'm at $611. Again, I've been really frugal. I've used Indeed.com a lot, which is a free service.
We're not having trouble filling the
And
positions.
and I'm not having a problem, so far so good.
Good. Thank you. Ed, you had a question?
Yeah, medical and testing, the next line.
That is a combination.
As of February, you've used only like 1/6 of it, so.
And that is another one that's subject to. Are we, are we hiring any new people? We don't have a lot of change happening, because that is my medical testing. That is also the line item if I require an independent medical evaluation on someone, which is a bit costly. So you want to have some money, yet, if you don't use it, it looks like we're not spending it, for what reason, people, might wonder.
Is this
But
like urine test too and all that?
yes,
Like say
that
it's
is
something down DPW?
our random drug testing goes
Random,
through there as
yeah.
well. And, again, if we don't have a lot of people leaving and we don't hire, I don't take on that cost, but you never know.
Okay.
So you would need the whole 6,000, or could we steal some?
I don't
Reallocate.
like that you
Reallocate,
have to
not
steal. I would
know that,
give-
Karen, that's why, it's just a
Well, as a
term.
matter of fact, I'm.
No,
I'm always-
you're very honest, and seeing that you're volunteering your
Well, not only.
opinion.
Right. Not only could I, I'll give you
I'll
some.
say it
I've
quietly.
actually, this year, I've implemented, because of the police recruitment process, I have an application process that I've implemented. So I'm actually bringing in some revenue. So I would be happy to give you a bit of my money if you like.
Joe, you listening to Karen? Chief, you listening?
I'm getting it in with one hand, Angela, and I'm going to give it to you with the other.
So you would feel comfortable with half that, 3,000?
I would.
I don't see the need to change such a small.
Well, there's your money if you need to move it to another department.
Exactly. You're 3 here, 3 there, 3 there.
Oh, okay.
There's your conference, there's your, there's
Yeah.
things that you can help each other out with.
So let's start building a little list off to the side then.
Yeah, I would say that might be something we might want to target, that we know we can
Right.
go to, but
No,
to
it's a
change
question
it.
mark.
Yeah.
No, you got 3,000 that we got if we need it.
Yeah.
And you know we're
We
always
need a tree.
looking for it.
I'm kidding. We need a tree, we got one.
Okay. Okay, what's next?
Any questions for Karen?
Good doing business with you, Karen.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. It's been a good year. I think we're working hard. We're making changes, a
No,
little
you
at
can
a
see it.
time.
You can see.
I'm very happy to announce that we've reduced our workers' comp by 90%. I think that's significant. We've,
90%?
90%
Wow,
since I got here.
that's very good.
And when I get the phone calls with complaints, I know you're doing your job. So keep up the good work.
The Christmas cards don't come that often, but, it comes with the job, what can I tell you?
Thank you, Karen.
Thank you.
So John,
Thank you.
if the 5-year plan called for $9,792, and we're at $141,735, where did that get spread out
Well-
across?
It's spread out across, but some of that money was also previously allocated to the town manager. For example, the 97, 92 that you do see was not designated for HR, but it was designated for positions that used to be part of the town manager. For example, with the personnel assistant. With that position, there was a longevity associated with it, so that was in the 5-year plan, part of.
All that we moved over
Right.
from my budget to this one.
So if it did exist, we did move it, but in the case of where, there is a difference for the position, it basically had to come from within everything we had to do. There was no one set place it came from.
And again, after what the manager just said and Karen just said, I think it's been a plus for the town. Absolutely. As far as professionalism and, she's saying, workers' comp's down 90%.
I mean, yeah,
In many
not-
businesses, that's be huge.
Not to have an HR department in a business this size is just absolutely ridiculous. I had been advocating for this position be filled.
They got rid
I
of
think
it in
for like
2002.
13 years, yeah.
1999.
99?
Like, it's just absolutely ridiculous. You can see already, just for 2 years, I mean, to have our workman's comp reduced by 90%, I mean, that's not by coincidence. That's from a lot of hard work and really doing your job, and congratulations and thank you.
And it also gives the town manager time to work on other things besides employee matters, because, like you just said, Karen's dealing with a lot of issues in her office, 40 hours a week. That gives you more time to deal with other issues going on in the town, in development and so on.
The reality is that a lot of these personnel issues weren't being dealt with because there just wasn't the time in the day. So now they are, and we're seeing the results. So,
It's a friend
Excellent.
to see you with a lot more free time on your hands to see the things.
absolutely.
Yeah, so you're a target now, Fred.
That's good town manager.
All right, let's go to
Public library?
library. Library.
Give me a page.
It's page 29, or tab library on your binders. Tom, how you doing?
But they're not in alphabetical order, so it's
No.
That's for next year.
Page 29.
that's next year. Maybe we'll,
Process.
yeah.
Think about how far it's come though, since in the past. It's
I got a hard time looking at it. I got a hard time finding it. Where is it? Way back?
What is it, 20? There it is. Yeah, it's about 5 from the back. Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, I see it.
Councilman, I'm happy to be here again, representing your library, West Warwick Public Library. Fiscal 2017 is our 50th anniversary year. We opened in February 1967. Given that, I'd like to say a few words about the library.
Are you and Gary's going to be together with this?
What's that?
Gary's is 50 years too.
Oh, okay. Yeah, probably, yeah. We'll see if we can coordinate on that. So, yeah, I'm going to brag a little bit, but I'll keep it short, because after all, I only get you as an audience once a year, if I'm lucky. And we have dozens of programs, and I could go on, but I'm just going to limit myself to a few recent developments that we're doing right now. We're going to be celebrating our 50th in various ways, and one of which is creating a digital archive for the town's history. We've already started scanning photos, newspapers, and other documents for our collection. For instance, we have every West Warwick High School yearbook dating back to 1920. So for any of you who went to West Warwick High School, we have your picture. And that's not a threat. In our 50th year, we're going to be reaching out to the community to bring in personal photographs, maps, letters, prints, and other items of historical significance to be scanned and cataloged for this database, so they can be shared with anyone, anywhere who has a mobile device or a computer. And so in this way, we intend on developing as West Warwick's memory institution. We're currently a partner with the West Warwick Health Equity Zone, working with the Food Access Work Group. And this summer, we'll be coordinating with Sodexo, Thunder Miss, West Bay Community, the Senior Center, and the other partners to become a site for the free lunch program for West Warwick youth from up to age 18. And we're going to be integrating that with our summer reading program that has at least 20 special programs for families. And Providence College recently donated 6 iMacs, which we're setting up as a creative lab. And the iMacs are loaded with, among other apps, Apple's iMovies editing software. And as all of you know, West Warwick was recently chosen to be the subject of Rhode Island PBS's Our Town series. And we've been in touch with the producers at PBS, and they're excited that we're making our iMac editing suite available as a public resource for West Warwick filmmakers who are working on this series. And speaking of Rhode Island PBS, the producers were at our library this last winter scouting our location and the Job Club program because there's a documentary that they're interested in doing, which is now in the planning stages about the Job Club. And we're going to be contributing to the town's economic development efforts by coordinating with the Rhode Island Small Business Administration and Town Planner Mark Carullo to host a series of workshops on developing and supporting small businesses. Our first series is in October and November of this year, when we're presenting a series of 4 workshops on starting your own small business. And if the series goes well, we'll do another series in the spring. And finally, at 50 years old, I want to point, not me, the library, I want to point out our success in maintaining the library facility by pursuing awards and grants. The facility is, of course, a town asset, And in the last year or two, we've made significant progress towards the greening of the building. We completed a $43,000 retrofit of our lighting, made possible by winning National Grid's Light Up Your Library competition. Our West Warwick patrons outvoted other libraries that were in the competition at the National Grid website. And we completed a $240,000 window replacement project made possible by a grant from the Champion Foundations. And that was a huge project, by the way, involving demolition, asbestos abatement, and construction, all accomplished during the 2015 February-March snowstorms while the library was open in sub-zero temperatures. And a big shout out to the school department, because we couldn't have done it without their help. Kenny Townsend basically functioned as a general contractor for the project, and his crew handled boarding up, insulation, finished carpentry, and other tasks. So we're really grateful to the school department. And this spring, we'll be replacing our 25-year-old rusted and deteriorating HVAC rooftop units. We have 2 units, a 40-ton and a 30-ton, and we're replacing them with new high-efficiency units. And this, again, is made possible by a $140,000 grant from the Champlain Foundations. So we're not just maintaining the building, we're improving it, greening it for the town for decades to come. So that's the end of my bragging section.
Great presentation.
Very nice.
Yeah. Now to the budget. You'll see in your handout, just to refresh the council's memory, in April of last year, at the council's request, I presented a plan and cost for annual budget increases within the 5-year plan to allow the library to comply with the state's minimum standards for hours open by fiscal 19. In this plan, we would move from 44 hours a week to 60, and at the required 60 open hours a week, which is based on our population, we no longer need to apply for annual waivers, and receiving our state revenue is no longer at risk. In fiscal 16, the council agreed to increase our appropriation by $10,000 so we could hire an additional part-time employee, beginning this process and increasing our hours from 44 to 48. Again, just to rehash, we ended up in this situation because severe cuts in our appropriation during the economic downturn resulted in the library losing about $224,000 in annual revenue. As part of your handout on the last page, I included a history of town appropriations dating back about 20 years, and you can see where a lot of that happened. And of course, once our appropriation is cut, since the state revenue is approximately 25% of our appropriation, our state revenue went down as well. So with the success of the 5-year plan and the return of the to financial stability, we're hoping to not only comply with the state minimum standards, but also to continue to grow and evolve our already high standards as a cultural, educational, and quality of life asset for the town. Now, if you see the handout called Cost for Increasing Minimum Hours from 48 to 52 at the West Warwick Public Library. When I presented this plan last year, there seemed to be some agreement that it was necessary and doable as long as the town continues to solidify its financial footing. And you'll see that this year we're asking for an additional $25,759, which will allow us to reach 52 hours by hiring 2 part-time employees at $10 an hour, and also cover increased utility costs associated with the extra hours. Now, if we look at the numbers on the library budget, there's one thing I want to mention right off the bat, and that's when I first worked this out, we had a very clean and clear presentation for the council, with our salaries line going up by the necessary $19,760 over last year's figure, going up to $358,535. And then the state announced it wanted all of our Ocean State Library membership fees to come out of the state funds. So to do this, I needed to zero out our OSL membership line in the appropriation, just to zero it out altogether. And that had $36,961 in it. and move that up to the salaries line, because I needed to move that same amount from the salaries line in state revenue down to the OSM membership line in that same column. In other words, the bottom line of the appropriation hasn't changed at all, but the state and town columns had to be balanced. Does that make sense? So the increased lines are the salaries line, the FICA line, and the gas and electrical line.
So I see salaries going
Up.
up by
Somewhere around,
57,000,
Yeah.
about 56,
that's
57,000.
because the OSL line got absorbed.
So up there.
Yeah, if you add,
37,000, almost 37,000 of that is just reallocation from one line to the
One line
next,
to the
because
other.
the state funds cannot be used there. Yeah, the state funds cannot be used for salaries, they have to be used for something else, so they took the money you had elsewhere and moved it up to salaries.
Why isn't the library getting a piece of the windmill?
They will be.
They will be. Will it reduce that then?
The electric cost?
Yeah.
Yes, it should.
It should
hoping it
eliminate
will.
it, right?
Well, they still have to pay a portion of the debt service like everyone else does. Instead of paying the electric bill, they pay the debt service. That should be.
Well, yeah, you're right. I'm sorry. It
Yeah.
won't eliminate it, but the
Correct.
debt service is significantly, we're supposed to have major savings the first year of operation. So we could cut that down.
Yeah.
You weren't planning on us.
I'm hoping it will be cut.
Are you anticipating a cut? Is that your number after the cut, or is that what you?
Well, the utilities number is actually very conservative, because
Okay.
to put this in perspective, we're adding 16 hours to our work week.
It's such an unknown because they're adding operating hours.
They're adding 16
So we
more
figured
hours,
we'd leave it.
so they leave
and
the
then we'll
lights
get
on
it-
16
we'll get a
more
year
hours.
on
Okay,
it.
so have we done calculations on this? This thing's going to go live in June. At least that's what we've been
We've done
told.
it on current
Right.
operations.
Okay.
So, and actually we did it on previous operations before they added a few hours
All right,
last
but do
year.
we know what their piece of the debt service is? And where is
Based
it in
upon-
here?
Again, it's based upon.
Based upon 44 hours, not 60
Yeah.
hours.
Yeah.
They did their study
Right.
based upon the library being open 44 hours.
We don't know what
Right.
their usage
They're
is going to
opening
be
up
based on
16
this.
more hours
We
a
can
week.
make a rough estimate based on this, but for budget purposes, until we have really a year under our belt, we anticipate it's going to go down. But for budget purposes, to get it.
But if we're going online fiscal 17. So if we're going online, this is 17's budget. So where is the calculation for all the departments?
We're actually going to have that as part of the debt service.
That's in there
Part
now?
of this, part of our debt service calculation. When we get to debt service and we discuss that as part of the budget, we're going to get into more details about that.
Oh, good. So it's included in the debt service now?
It will be, again, we'll have that discussion 17. The first year
But
is.
it's not distributed, John. It's not
It-
distributed to...
It will be distributed. The first year, because we're not sure yet what's going to take place with the infrastructure bank and what the permanent financing is going to be,
Uh-huh.
we're still getting those numbers right now.
Yeah.
So we don't know exactly what the first year costs are going to be, but we're anticipating that, and you will see with some of the other departments, that we have a portion that we took out of their budgets and we plan to put them into a debt service, or put them into, what I'm going to plan to create is a special or a separate fund, an internal service fund, because you can have one other than medical, that will actually be for the operations and the debt service payments of the wind turbines.
Okay, but in any case, this number of 48,290, wouldn't we expect it to be significantly less than that?
Yes, we do. We do expect it to. However, we did not touch it in this particular budget because,
All of our departments, we lowered the electric amounts in all of our departments where we have direct control and knowledge.
Yeah.
The outside departments, like the library, wastewater, things like that, we have less of a,
No, I think it's great. I think, I'm very pleased about what we're doing, and I'd like to see the fruits of it,
absolutely.
on paper, on where we can show the people where 70% of them voted for this thing, where we're keeping our promises, then we didn't, like, go for the sky when,
Right.
you
Not
know.
only that, if we can get to 60 hours faster,
Just to be clear, the plan isn't to go from 44 to 60 this year. It's almost like the library has a 3-year plan.
No, the library has a 3-year plan.
4 years.
I laid it out last year, and I laid it out in one of the inserts in your handout, too.
Yep. So it's going to go from, this year, the proposal is to go from 44 to,
No, we went from 44 to 48 last year.
correct, and now it's
This-
going to 48 to 50.
48 to 52.
Yep, and then
Yeah.
56, and then 60.
And once we're at 60, we'll have added 832 hours to our operations, which is basically 3.5 months. So
Yeah.
we're going to be open 3.5 months more for
Yeah.
the
Fantastic.
No, it's
people who
huge.
work.
I
Yeah.
remember talking about it last year. I remember
Yeah.
recommending that we find the money, because I know it was tight last
Yeah.
year.
I think all of us did, really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I think we wanted to go to 60 as fast as possible.
It's an
We
important.
did,
No,
yes.
I know.
We talked about
I
going,
get people asking all the time.
Usually
you
we're
know.
not, you know,
yeah.
you've only been here a couple of years, but Nate can tell you, Linda can tell you, it was a rough 3 years there that we were going back and forth.
Well, look at the schedule on the back over here.
Yeah, I just have the statistics. I can see it. I can see
Yeah,
what
very
happened
good.
just by looking at the numbers.
Gas, I'm looking at that line item. Is that gas meaning for vehicle or gas meaning for the building?
That means for heating the building.
Because I see you've used 4281 up till 229, and you were budgeted 10,000 last year, but you went up to 12,294 this year.
Yeah, that's the half of the, again, in your readout, what we're asking for utilities, to add the 4 hours. And that's only a percentage of the appropriation, too. That's, if you look at what we actually spend on utilities, the actual cost that we're going to have to spend is probably double the amount I'm asking here to go up another 3.5 months. So I'm going to be thrilled when our utilities bill is cut. And I'm very, very
Yeah,
curious
we
to hear
had
those numbers.
a mild winter as well.
Got a very nice winter.
Just this past year on gas and electric, we budgeted almost $74,000 just for gas and electric.
All right, any other questions? Any concerns?
Hey, we're not approving, we're just reviewing.
Discussing.
Yeah, okay.
Correct, we still got workshops, and we got public hearings, and then,
Yeah, get our
Any
questions out of the way.
questions?
Great. Thanks so
Thank you.
much.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
What's next?
What's next?
well, we have the town planner, he's not here, zoning, not here, Department of Public
Like I said,
Works.
we can go, the planning budget hasn't changed from last year, we'd like to.
Yeah, let's go through and
Town
get out of the
planner.
way.
Yeah, we might find
Yeah,
out.
let's
We
get
have
out of
questions, we can,
It's page 5 of the budget document.
Let me straighten this out.
In the very beginning.
Department manager's manager.
What are we doing now, town planner?
page 5,
Within $100.
Yeah, $100 for the agenda management, because
Yep.
his share of it, that department's share.
And speaking of the agenda management, what you will see with this department as well as the other two departments that are part of the agenda management, you will see a document from Granicus that actually outlines the cost for the whole fiscal year, as well as the allocation between the various departments in wastewater, pension, and so forth. So you will see that as part of your binder document.
Yeah.
So you'll see exactly how it's allocated, and that will be with each of the departments, so you don't have to flip back to it. Like I said, 3 of the departments affected by that: council, planning, and zoning. The pension has their own portion that you'll see there, as well as wastewater. And that's in the separate budget for wastewater. And pension, as we know, doesn't quite have a budget just yet, but that's another story for another time, as we know.
Okay, any questions? It's pretty cut and dry.
yeah, it is. Yeah, I like that they distributed the agenda management. It's good.
All right, let's go on to police first, and then we'll go fire after that.
Big ones, huh?
We're warmed up.
Yeah, we're warmed up now.
Page 19 of the budget document for police.
Good evening, chief.
Good evening.
I went through the Citizens Academy, so maybe I should recuse myself from this whole process.
When will be a police?
I want to, no, I want to give them whatever they want.
Oh, that's what happened when we went to the burn house too. Right?
Yeah, right.
Any of those cameras you needed, remember I said, whatever you want, the infrared cameras?
And if I could just add, just like with the other departments, you have the supplement in front of you that has the various positions. I did sort it by position so that you can see the groupings of the different categories. And as part of the narrative, it now has a summary of, or at the bottom of the narrative, it has the number of each rank and file.
That's a big difference, though.
Oh, no, that's because of the,
That's because of the 6 line item.
Yeah. If you look, the difference is actually between last year and this year, it's about $38,000. And that's with the department budget, and my budget is about $8,000. This we
That's what-
decreased fuel costs because the gas prices have been so low. And if you look at the actual spent versus the budgeted last year, we felt we could go down. And was there any other one? Fuel and
Again, utilities, trying to reallocate the utilities portion.
those two things we dropped, electric and gasoline prices we dropped because of obvious reasons.
In this case here, the utility bill for the police department is only about $5,000, so that's all we reduced the budget by, or reallocated, I should say.
there's no, Chief, any innovations in here like body cams, GPS devices,
So any of that
patrol
stuff,
car cams, any of that stuff?
no, all that's, any of that would be in the capital next week.
Oh, okay, all right, good. Okay, yes,
So-
sorry, you're right. Yeah.
If I could just maybe highlight a couple of the items and a couple of changes. We are asking for a couple personnel issues. One would be to have a second full-time animal control officer, as we did probably going back 5 years ago. We just recently, I believe it was last year, we approved the part-time. This year, we're trying to get it full-time. They are quite busy down there.
It's a half a position.
I was just gonna say, you're not talking 2 full-times and a part-time, you know?
No, that would replace the part-time position.
Right.
Okay.
Correct.
So basically it doubles the salary amount and adds the benefits.
Is that in here?
Yes.
It's actually part of the, if you look at the supplement, and you look under civilians, in the supplement, you'll see that it has animal control, PT, proposed FT,
Yeah.
and it has medical, again, assuming it's just a single. I mean, we don't know if it'll be a single or a family.
But the salary budget doesn't go up
It's
from
under-
last year to this year.
It goes up on general wages.
Oh, okay,
If you look at that
Gotcha.
line item, it goes up around
all right.
30,000.
29, yeah, 29.
One of them
Hey,
raises?
What's the offset, John, you might know better, if we can, the dog pound supplies, what's the offset for licensing? What do we take in for licensing?
I believe that falls under the clerk revenue,
That goes in through the clerk's office.
Yeah, it doesn't go to-
as part of, as revenue. It comes in as revenue. And I believe,
It comes in as revenue for the clerk's office, though.
Well-
So it offsets your budget.
Do all the licensing.
the revenues are
Right.
not actually departmentalized. They all go into just general.
Yeah, okay. I'm curious. I'm curious, what do we charge for a dog license?
7 for neuter, 15 for not.
Okay, is that right in line with everybody else?
It's set by state law.
It isn't set by state law. No, all the towns do it all differently.
It's set by
You have
statute.
parameters in the state law by which you can set, you can't go so far, you can't charge 7 for not a spay and neuter and 30 for a neuter, but it's parameters in the state law, they don't set the actual fees, all the towns are different.
Yeah. Rather than delay the process, I just want to know, more than curiosity, what our revenue is in dog licenses, and what are we doing, maybe we can offset some of that expense for, I advocate another person, some more help
Okay.
down there. We've
I was
let
trying
that
to
thing
figure out why it's not
go
42
for
up.
years and years and years.
It's only like 30 up.
And we're all animal lovers up
Yeah,
here, aren't we?
we fully support it.
Yeah.
It's desperately needed down.
Yeah, we desperately need it.
When's the dog park
But,
at? When's the dog park
I'm
at?
for that too, we'll talk about that, yeah. We've been advocating that for years.
I know.
Okay, But, you know,
That's where
then,
you wanna
then,
put it.
and then the recession came and the 5-year plan came and,
No, I know.
but we're recuperating pretty good. So if you could get that for me, Marianne? Chief,
Just dog license revenue?
how many,
Yes.
yeah, what the surrounding communities are charging?
Sure.
If
Oh,
we're
sure.
up or down or whatever? Maybe it needs an adjustment, I don't know.
Yeah, if you look under 413.4, it does have some licenses throughout the state, what they can be set at.
The Rhode Island general law.
But it's a range, right?
Well, no, it says that West Warwick may provide an ordinance for an annual license fee of $7 for each neutered male or spayed female, or 15 for each unneutered male or unspayed female. So it allows you to set an ordinance at the amount of $7 or $15. And it's specific to West Warwick, and they have a list of different communities.
Well, you don't wanna rob the people either with that,
No.
because what they're gonna do, you're gonna force them into not getting a license at all.
Well, that's in anything. I mean, you know, the thing is, if Coventry's charging 10 and Cranston's charging 12, I mean, no, let's not be suckers either.
Well, I think my point was, in that statute, it lists different municipalities and what they're
I
allowed
think
to
you're
charge. So
both right here. What you're saying is it gives a list of communities for
It
7
tells them
and
what they are.
15. There's probably another set of communities that are charging, you know, because I know some communities have pit bull. You have to have insurance, you gotta have certain things, like Pawtucket. I know they have a law there about certain dogs, and you pay more. So,
I mean, my only point was, for an easy reference, if you look at the statute, it lists the different
different
communities.
communities.
So you can
that's
find
why
that right
you're
there.
right, other communities might charge more, but again, Ed, this community is Rhode Island state law, whatever numbers those were.
If you change your ordinance, it would change at that level.
Yeah, the next question is, how many do we do, and is it going to make a significant
It's
amount
it's
of?
worth it, yeah.
Well, that'd be even the clerk's office, can you tell
$1,000,
us how
that's
many
worse, yeah.
licenses we renew yearly?
Probably 1,200, 1,300.
12, 13.
There's probably 2,500 to 3,000 dogs.
I wonder how many unlicensed.
And that's being, that's what you're saying.
Yeah, right.
Yep.
I say only a third are licensed in them.
Chief, when you have computer services,
Yes.
is that repairs or is that,
That is a combination. And we're actually, year-to-date, we're at like
41?
53,000.
Well, as of 229, it shows 41.
Yeah, well, we updated those numbers to recently, up to the end of February. But it includes licensing fees for our records management software, which is about almost $21,000 for that. About $2,800 for our live scan computer for the fingerprints. Our mugshot software is about $400. We're going to need to, and I'm not sure the price, but cloud storage for our server,
Yeah.
that's included. Crime reports, that's about $1,200. Website is about $450. And then we need to renew our Power DMS, our document management software that we purchased 3 years ago. So that's about, the renewal for 3 years is going to be about $10,000. So, and then the rest would be other items, whether that's replace printers, keyboards, printer cartridges, and IT support.
Chief, what do we spend on the youth center? It's about 14,000. Is that just lighting and maintenance?
Gas,
Yeah.
lighting, water bills, you name it.
That's been right in line.
Yeah.
So the other thing we're looking to do, and it really doesn't show up in the police budget, but we share a maintenance person with town hall, and that person's required to provide the maintenance for the police department, which is open 24/7, town hall, and the youth center, and it's just impossible for one person. So currently, we pay for that entire expense. We're looking, when the building official comes with his budget, to request a second full-time person, which would cover this building, town hall, and then we would have one to cover the police department and the youth center.
Is all the janitorial supplies coming out of that, out of yours too?
No, I think, I don't,
Yeah, we have the NARS.
yeah, they have it in theirs and we have it in ours, and it adds up. You would imagine toilet paper and paper towels, quite expensive. You wouldn't have thought, but they are. One other thing that I'm requesting is that to move some money. A couple of years ago, before the last negotiated contracts, we had quite a bit more funding in the training budget. And what we're looking to do is take some money from the education account. We have less people going to, at this time, going to college. So we're looking to take some of that money and put that into training so we can allocate that for other training courses and such. So it won't be an additional, it's just moving from one account to another.
To another line?
Correct.
Chief, probably should ask Karen too, but I know Councilman Kenny and I were talking last week, the advertising for the police department's been, well, we've heard on the radio,
Sure.
the news. How many police officers are we hiring?
One.
Just one. Wow, that's amazing, there's a lot of advertising.
Well, I mean, the thing is, we don't know. We probably have about 14 department members that could retire at any time.
Anytime, yeah.
So we go through a process and we try to get a list and generate as many candidates as we can to maintain that
For
list.
future, yep.
So,
No, it's just
but I don't,
That's what we were talking, just candid, it seems like we're hiring 15 police officers for the way they're advertising, and we were kind of trying to figure out what we're hiring. We meant to ask Fred, but we forgot about it. But we were just jokingly saying, wow, this is, the major advertising is unbelievable. How many officers are we hiring? Because we thought we were going on a giant hiring spree.
You gotta have a big list of get qualified candidates,
And
that's the reality.
Yeah.
You need-
and it has been difficult to draw candidates to even apply.
I want to applaud you on your diversity, though.
Yeah,
You have a very diverse police
yeah, so they
department.
can
Oh,
see the whole
thank you.
shop.
Female,
I meant to
male.
tell you that one, because when you look
I
at
gotta
it,
say, I saw that the other day at St. Patty's Day, and, that's one thing that I have to do where I work, is look at diversity, and I gotta say, your department's doing a good job with that.
Oh, thank you.
see that? Can't see.
It should reflect the community.
You're gonna,
And just to touch, and I think Karen spoke about the advertising, I believe a lot of that, and that's handled through her office, but I believe a lot of that is free,
Yeah.
but it pops up all over the place, whether it's
Yeah, that's
Channel
what
10,
I'm saying,
Channel
like-
12.
do a wide shot.
It looked like,
Yeah.
it looked like a giant, and I gotta say, they did it for Situate and somebody else too, in Channel 10.
You adjust it.
But, I was like, how many officers are we hiring? So just to clarify,
Better do it
it's
before you leave.
it's one, but you're looking at future too.
It would be to, if we had qualified candidates on a list, to maintain that list, and to hire if we have, someone could retire tomorrow.
You know, like with
In the hallway,
the
probably hiring a couple.
FY17, we're gonna see
all downstairs,
probably a couple,
in the
I
floor.
would guess.
Now,
Not more.
watch this.
because
If I go
they're
like
all-
this, see this?
And that all, that affects the overtime budget, so
Well,
it takes us,
the overtime, but then you got the longevity.
Correct.
It all.
Yeah, so if we have an active list, though, it's
Yeah.
that less amount of time that we have to go through the process, and we can get somebody right into the next class.
Yeah, I'm looking on this list here, based on pays. Now, probation and patrol officer, that's the young lady we just hired.
we have two right now, but they won't,
And you look at the salaries, they're 35,000, they don't have longevity, they don't have, so. When somebody retires, it helps out a little bit, so.
but we're kind of budgeting to have a probationary officer, so we're already budgeting at that lower item, so when somebody leaves, it ends up costing us overtime on the bottom end, because we're short, and we're at minimums, so. Try to be proactive and prevent that, but it's
Drew, what was
never
your
ending.
salaries when you worked?
My salary.
What'd you charge us?
Right along, right along.
Plus longevity and benefits.
Coffee,
I
donuts.
had a rider on me, I think,
You had a rider.
especially going inside those houses.
Any questions for the chief?
If I can just add one thing about the dog pound, I know Councilman Giroux had asked about the revenues. What we're trying to do is we're trying to actually take that revenue at year end, and rather it being close to the general fund balance or offset some of these expenses, we'd like to actually establish a separate fund from the general fund so that each year, as the money does get collected, it can go in and be used for future expenses within a dog pound, in which case then what we could do is, if we grow that fund itself, we could then possibly take some of this money out of the police department budget and be paid out of that separate fund. We're trying to do and be creative with a lot of the different funds, like I've mentioned, to try to establish and, collect the money and then have it be designated for a specific use. So if money, if we collect, $5,000 in dog pound fees, but we only spend $2,000, yes, it benefits the town, but it's not there for the benefit of the dog pound.
Yeah, it's like an enterprise type fund.
Well, and
Simple,
again,
simple.
I mean, I think, all honesty, we've burnt out the dog officer.
Yeah, she's done.
She's put in many hours over the past 5 years when it was just her. Last year, we gave her a part-timer, but, I think we've burnt her out. And, a full-timer would probably help her out a lot down there.
Absolutely.
And, kudos to her, she's done the best she could, being a single person down there and trying to operate the hours of operation down there, plus deal with any issues she has to deal with around town, whether it's a mouse, a rat, a dog, a cat, a skunk. She's done well with that, and, she doesn't hear it from us that often, because we really don't see her, or we really, but I know I've called the chief a couple of times, people have called me with concerns, and, it's usually either faults or, it gets rectified right away, so, good job, chief, and let her know that we appreciate everything she
Okay,
does.
thank you.
Okay, thank you, chief.
You're welcome, thank you.
And there's always, let's see.
Before we conclude, I want you to do a wide shot with that.
Yeah,
So people
you can see who's in the audience.
Okay? Just like maybe just, okay.
Fire department, fireball.
You mind me to tell you something else after, too?
And maybe we'll even turn on the lights back there, so. it's
Yeah,
not
they'll
like,
turn the lights,
movie
yeah.
theater.
I just, I want to take it.
Saving electric.
One candidate and full department. Candidate? Oh, yeah.
All right,
Okay, the fire department is page 20 of the budget document.
Bless you.
Bless you.
can you wipe that off Fred now?
Pass Fred. It hit Mary Ann. Seen his helicopter flying. It's not even late yet,
I
Kendra.
was just going to say that. It's still early.
I've been looking at numbers all day, I don't Excel all day. Chief, how you doing?
Good evening. Looking at the fire department budget, we're pretty much level funded from the previous 3 years. Some of the differences in our budget this year, I guess it's about $132,000. And the differences come in on salaries, where we've had a lot of tiered employees, class 4, 3, 2, they've moved up. So that's the increase there. We have had no hires of about $29,000. Training, you're going to notice, is up about $25,000. And that would be because we have, I'm just going to my page here. We're going to need to train a dispatcher. We have a dispatcher that's possibly leaving in April. I'll be working with Karen to establish a dispatcher list. Hopefully by September, October the latest, we would like to have a dispatcher ready to go to train him or her within 12 weeks before that person retires, so we're not short. And also, I figured in for another candidate for a firefighter. There's been a lot of recruitment from other departments, and there may be a possibility of losing a member. So, to be proactive, I put that in there. I could lose more. I may have about 10 people that can retire. But I don't think you want me to put that many people in this budget. That was one of the biggest increases. Fleet maintenance, 2 years in a row, we've had big bill with the ladder truck, and we increased that about $10,000. And the biggest item on the increase on the budget would be on the department head salary for an assistant chief.
The what?
For requests for an assistant chief. This will be the fourth year I've been requesting assistant chief's position.
So while we're on that, I see the department's 157, the manager's 122.
Yeah, so basically, in reviewing everything, we've had the conversation a couple times. We've talked about whether or not it could be done as a half-time position, a part-time position. I think the potential to get someone retiring from another department to come in part-time is a very qualified person would be something that we could do, and as it's a new position, I just think it would be prudent to see how that would work before jumping to the full-time, similar to what we did with the dog officer and others. So, I mean, it's just, again, this is something, I understand he's been requesting it year after year, and there's certainly a need for assistance over there.
Well, the chief and I have had probably a good 45-minute discussion over the phone on this matter.
He's been lobbying hard, I know.
No,
It's
actually, it wasn't
important.
a lot. He
No,
called
I'm
for
just
something
kidding.
else we were talking about.
No, you called me.
It was something totally
So while I had you on the phone.
Wow, we're talking.
Well, I do have some, I see what your concerns are, and he explained to me what he wanted to do, but I also explained to him, that, I've shared individuals' names with him that I think could be a chief in the future. And I'd like to see individuals from that department, have an opportunity to become assistant chief, because the chief has expressed to all of us that, he's not here forever. I think you said 10 or 12 years you wanted to do.
Well,
No, that's Tom Brady. Specifically.
Well, you're on year what?
I'm going to be going on 8.
8 years. I mean, and I know you said to us 10 or 12 years or something like that in the past. That's your decision. But again, I'd like to see somebody in that role that can slide up, and it could be hired within. And I shared my names, and listen,
Hey,
I've talked to firefighters, and I've talked to different people, and I see how they perform. And I know individuals that I even brought up might not have the education piece yet, or need to take that education piece, but maybe that's something we want to look at is, maybe if the chief has somebody qualified taking the education piece, just like we did here with you, as an assistant chief as full-time, and let them work on that education piece, so once the chief decides to retire,
Sure.
that person.
No, it's a valid point. No,
I
it's very
am-
valid.
I am for with hiring and
But
training.
I don't think we have, why are we concerned on who's gonna be the next chief? None of us might not even be here, so that's up to that council.
I understand
to
that, but
decide
it's
who's
actually up
gonna
to
be.
the manager. The manager
Well,
brings it
come
forward
on.
to the council.
When the council says, if he suggests somebody, the manager works for the council, so let's put it straight. Whatever the council wants, the council's gonna get from the manager, more or less. So, I repeated that a million times. And the only other thing I don't like about hiring within, with an assistant chief, is we're making another position. And I told the chief I'd be all for it. How long have I said it, chief? As long as you've been looking for one. Show me where you lose a position, and show me the money, and I'm all for an assistant chief. But we have, what you're doing, we're gonna make a position. That's what we're doing.
Understandable,
Yeah,
understandable,
it's a
Councilman.
non-union- It's also a non-union position, too.
Yeah.
So,
But someone's gonna have to take the place of the person stepping up.
Well, if he
Oh,
hires.
yeah.
If he hires within or
I don't have a clue who
Outside.
you would want for that position.
Oh.
You know, I don't have a clue.
I look at it
but-
this way here. The position is needed more than ever. The fire service, EMS, EMA has been expanding more and more every year. And one chief just can't manage it effectively. And I think everyone knows that. We've gone over that. Councilman Badula, I understand what you're saying about adding a position. I have right here a comparison of other departments: Cranston, East Greenwich, East Providence, Johnston, North Providence, Pawtucket, Warwick, West Warwick, Woonsocket, North Kingstown. There's only 2 departments don't have an assistant chief.
Which ones are those, Chief?
Right here, Cranston has a full-time training officer,
Okay.
which does other duties besides just the training, a full-time EMS officer, and an assistant chief. East Greenwich has an assistant chief, which handles other duties as EMS and other duties. East Providence has a full-time EMS officer, 2 officers in training and safety. They're full-time administrative positions. I just said East Providence. Johnston has a full-time training officer, full-time EMS coordinator, and their assistant chief is a battalion chief that is paid overtime and works administratively, and speaking with that chief, it's really not working out. But they do
Okay,
pay for
so,
that position.
okay,
North
so-
Providence, 1 in 1, training EMS assistant chief. Pawtucket, 2 in training, 1 EMS, 1 assistant. Warwick has 2 assistants, an EMS and 2 training. West Warwick, 0. Woonsocket, 1 in 1. And North Kingstown, assistant chief, who also handles EMS. And
All right, so, I mean, the way I look at it, Councilman, is this, to me, is like going years without an HR person. We brought someone on, and it benefited the town, you know, and the public as a whole, and it benefited just the inner workings of the town. To have somebody to assist the chief, I mean, I don't think he's wants this so he can get out of doing some work, because I think he's doing a lot of work
I think actually it's
there.
going to add more work, to
It's
be
gonna-
honest
yeah,
with you.
But if you look at what this particular individual has to do, I mean, there's just so many grants out there that he physically doesn't have the time to go after or research. I mean, since the chief has been here, $1.2 million has been gained in grants. And that's just by, you know, one person with, I'm sure,
No,
some
it's not
assistance.
one- no, it's not one person.
Well, no, I know,
Don
with
Johnson.
assistance, I was about to say that, with assistance from your people, but to have somebody there as an assistant to be able to, just one thing, go after more grants, I think could benefit everybody. I think it could benefit the men, and, you know, you don't have any women, but the men there. I think it could benefit, you know, the chief, the manager, looking at things that might be getting done partially, but not completely, where another person could do that. I see this as an investment, not just for the chief, but for a professional governmental entity that should have, you know, an assistant to the chief. It's not unusual. The chief of police has an assistant.
And I think the manager agrees,
But only 50%. And last year we talked about this, and what I did, I remember very well.
Oh, it went down at the 11th hour.
Yeah, I turned to him, I said, I'm going to leave it up to the manager. And I thought we should have had one. I'm going to leave it up to the manager. The manager said, no, not this year, but next year.
Ed, I agree with everything you're
To echo
saying.
what you said about the word investment, I like the word investment, but I like what Councilman Goslin said, how we need to consider bringing up somebody within that we think, is a good candidate. And that's determined by the town manager and determined by the fire chief, who we think is important. But I think we need to, just like how we're planning for the future in all of our other endeavors, we
But
need to
ultimately,
consider planning.
Angela's right, it's determined by the council.
Of course.
I mean, that's
You
the
know,
the
I
council.
agree with everything.
That, to me, that's not part of my decision. I think it's good that you're priming somebody for potentially taking over the leadership.
I understand all that.
That's good, but it doesn't
But we're
mean that
putting-
it's a given.
We're putting the cart before the horse.
Yeah, no,
None of
I
us
agree.
can say who we want, because it doesn't matter when when the 11th hour comes, it doesn't matter when we're not here, or if we are here and it changes, or whatever it may be.
but
But
anybody
I
who's-
agree, and I had numerous conversations with the chief on this, and you know how I feel about it. I understand that, I know the work that you're doing. I understand that, and I know how it would, but, in other words, you tell the taxpayers that we're hurting, and we're raising their taxes, which I'm totally against, and then we're hiring positions. I like eating steak every week, but sometimes in a week I gotta eat some hamburger. So, that's my feelings. Believe me, I'm 100% for it. Show me the money. And that's what I said from day one. When you brought it to me, I agree with you. I agree with Ed. I just don't think that we don't have, and you know how I feel about other things where we ate the thing with the station fire. When I was president at the time, I met with Kacheri. And Kacheri, we couldn't afford taking that hit. And he left it up to us. We had to pay. The ball was in our court. And that wasn't our mandate. That's a state mandate. And I said at the time, then you're going to have the fire marshal from the state take responsibility, because we're taking responsibility for something we shouldn't be taking responsibility on. So that's my feelings. Believe me, I know Joe personally. I know what he does. I have conversations with him on a regular basis. If I have a problem or if something comes up, this comes up. And I understand his need for this, and he could be doing other things and making it better, but I don't think we have the money.
Well, I think I agree on a lot of it. As far as the money, we've got to find the money. It is a new position, and we're doing this to help the department and ultimately help the taxpayer.
How are you helping the taxpayer if you're
Because
gonna
you're
raise
making it
the
more
taxes?
efficient, because how are we helping the taxpayer by bringing in 8 years, $1.2 million in
No,
grants?
I'm not
Where do you
talking
think
that.
that money went, right? What it did was, it paid for things that normally the taxpayer would have had to pay for.
Absolutely.
Okay?
What things we would've
$1.2
did
million
without.
in 8 years, guys, okay? It's over $130,000 a year, okay? That would pay plus for an assistant. That might have been able to get another $500,000 in grants. Who knows? Because one man can only do so many things, your people can do so many things. What I'm saying is, again, it's an investment, getting somebody up there that maybe might be the next chief, that's a possibility, but that doesn't enter in my reasoning here. My reasoning is that all these things can help everybody, make it more efficient, allow you to do things that you couldn't do, and do more of the things that we're doing right now. And that's my point.
And
I agree, we got to find the money. We got to find the money, but again, keep in mind, over the last 8 years, $1.2 million, and that has directly, right, subsidized the taxpayers, because the scuba equipment you had to get, that paid for it. I can't remember all the things, Joe, but it seems like every month you come up here and say, I found another $30,000 somewhere. Right? I mean, that's the fact.
If I can say, I agree with Ed. It's similar to human resources. You don't know how much you can save until someone is in the position. I think this position can make us more efficient, allow our director, in essence, to do more direction and not be in the minutia of the department every day, not stepping out of it totally, but not being
I
involved
don't think Joe
with some
ever
of the
would.
things he has to be involved with now. And I think this position does pay for itself over time.
And understand that if it doesn't, we can eliminate it.
Sure.
And there's the key. Do you want to go into the waters lightly, or you want to just dive right in and go full-time? Is the question. Because I'm going to tell you something. Here's my opinion. Now you hire somebody within. I'm just throwing this out there.
I have no idea
You have no
how to
idea.
hire, first I gotta get the
But
position
again,
first, and we'll worry about
Well,
the other part later.
Here's the key, chief. If we're hiring, if we do hire from within,
Someone from within may not
I'm just
apply
saying,
for it.
Exactly.
But
Now,
if
if
we
you
do,
put a
we're-
quote out like that saying, we can get rid of it, why
Well-
would they want to apply for it, knowing a year from now, shit, I might not, I
No,
might be cut?
the-
Because it might not be from within.
Yeah.
If I may.
But again-
It's time for the department to be progressive. I feel frustrated, my men feel frustrated that we can't, that we have an officer in the audience. And we do a lot of training. When a new recruit comes on, they get all kind of training. We'll have a training officer that will do monthly trainings. But when our officers get promoted, we don't give them enough training. And this is what an assistant chief would be able to do. We have a lot of good officers that want more. And the assistant chief will handle most of the operational aspect of the job. Because grants, yes, Don Johnson does a hell of a job helping me do the narratives and all for the grants. But after that, managing a grant, once we get it, takes a lot of time. Quarterly reports and how you spend the money and all, it just goes on and on. All the meetings that we have to attend, there's a lot of things I don't go to professionally because I don't have the time. And, I feel guilty that I won't be in the office. It's not only, I thank Councilman Giroux for highlighting about the grant money and how much we have saved the taxpayer, but I also have the concern of the department. Safety. We need somebody else. I can't oversee it all. If I can't finish a project, I don't start it. And that's not fair to the rest of the department who wants to progress and move forward. As far as who the assistant chief would be, I have no idea. My first goal is to get it. Somebody from the department. We do have some qualified people. Are they ready to make that move, leave the union or whatever? I don't know. But my goal is, I'm hoping when I leave, that somebody from the department takes over my position. Because we have some real good guys that can do it. And I went to a seminar last month over here at the West Valley Inn, the Chiefs Association put on. We had a speaker come in, a well-renowned fire chief, and he hit a little point, and I made a note of it, about liability. And I mentioned about training our officers in fireground tactics and all. If something goes wrong, NIOSH, National Institute of, these acronyms get me. As an organization that comes in and investigates if something happens, somebody gets hurt, dies on the job or whatever. And like they said, we do give a lot of training to new recruits and all, but we're not giving the training to our officers, and there's a liability there. And my goal is to move it forward and make the department better. If anyone has known me, if it was coaching or whatever, when I leave something, I'm leaving it in good shape in the future. That's what I want to do. I just don't want to just sit on my hands and say, I'll ride my time out and go from there. There's a lot of work to be done, and I would suggest full-time, because I've already lost years. And there's a lot of things I'd like to accomplish and work with the men to get accomplished.
So what have you put in here, Fred, for a second position, for a assistant position?
It's half the amount.
It's .5 FTE?
Yeah.
Okay, so again, we're not making any decisions, we're gathering information, right? So, unless you want to
Well,
put this one to bed now,
well, I don't want to do what we did to the chief last year. The 11th hour of the budget, we said, sorry, chief, you're on your own again for another year. If majority of you want this,
Well, the manager's already put in, he's halfway there, got 50%. I'm saying go the whole. I'm recommending that we bite the bullet and give something what we've said we were going to do for years. I know we've been putting it off. Your points are, we're in a 5-year plan, but this, I don't know if I want to call it a promise, but this was made, hold off, next year we'll do it. 50%, if I ask the chief right now, will he accept that, he's going to probably say yes, but I don't, yeah, something's better than nothing. But are we really doing the department justice by just doing 50%, not putting in the full amount?
Chief, did
What do you
say
guys
what
think?
Two were that do not have it?
Yeah, I would
I'm sorry?
Yeah.
You never answered the question about what are the two, who are two communities that you listed that do not have, because you said there were two that do not have this. Just out of curiosity.
But if they don't,
East Providence right now,
Yeah.
they have it in their budget, but they don't have an assistant chief right now, but they do have 2 officers in training and safety and 1 EMS coordinator that are picking up the slack.
the responsibilities of that assistant.
Correct.
All right.
And the other one?
Yeah.
So they basically have, we don't have one, actually 1.
So just these provinces.
But they have
Yeah.
FTEs that will cover
Some of the roles.
some of the roles.
And you're more than welcome, I have extra copies here that breaks down all the other departments.
Do you have their salaries of those?
I have their budgets.
This, my guess is this would
'Cause you're
typically
asking
be.
for
I have,
fire-
what-
$70,000.
I have what their manning is.
Positions.
Oh,
they're not
what
gonna
is it,
require a
assistant
lot.
chief?
Well, according to this, from last year's budget, it looks like $70,200. But I'm asking.
Well, that was a number that I kind of looked at other communities. Ready for this?
Yep.
Providence, assistant chief, 2 of them, $99,000 apiece. Newport, 99,000.
That's a 299.
There's 2 of them.
Newport, 83,000. Warwick has 2 at 100, almost 101,000 apiece. Cranston, 91,800.
All right, can you go down to like our size of?
I'm getting there. East Greenwich,
Can you go like North Providence?
East Greenwich, 93.
Central Falls.
Those are
That's
all,
only 1 square mile.
those are all assistant chiefs that make more than the chief of department here. Just saying,
That was the point. We never told you.
okay?
Hey, Chief, we never told you you couldn't apply.
Smithfield, 69,000. Portsmouth, 78,000 change. North Providence, 79,000. And I know they're in for, an
North
upgrade.
Kingstown, South Kingstown, what are
North
they?
Kingstown, 79,800. Central Falls, 65,000. Woonsocket, 68,200.
Central Falls is 1 square mile?
And they have an assistant chief. I didn't put them on the comparison.
Imagine that.
Yeah, the state must have approved that, too.
State heads on
The state approved it.
That's not saying too much for the state.
No. We pay for all the school systems, too.
Those are the assistant chiefs. I have it here if you want to use it.
Those are the costs without benefits, right? Those are the
That,
salaries.
that is the cost without benefit.
That's just the cost with benefit, with salary.
And all that can be found in the Department of Revenue Municipal Guide.
Taking a plus and minus.
I noticed the training line item goes from 14 to 59, and I know you itemized it.
Yes, that was an
Is the
increase.
instructor paid enough? Because as long as it says instructor paid.
That's our job.
Yes, that is going to cover the
early in the
instructor,
process.
Not John and I can
Quiz.
Yeah.
make the decision.
whoever our training officer is.
Guys, can I just recommend that I'd like to see it. I mean, I don't know how, Angela, I know how you feel. You like to see it, too.
I like to see it,
I know
but we
where you
can't
stand.
afford it.
Right. What I want to know, can we afford it? That's the question. So John and Fred, can you tell me, can we afford it? Can you look in there again, see where we can get the rest of it, the
we-
0.5?
We've anticipated that possibly there are things that we can move around, and we could probably, we can make it work.
All right, so why don't we wait until we see that then?
And I would just recommend that because I think,
Here's what
Councilman Giroux said something that, in all likelihood, if you put this out to an application process, which we would, we're going to get a lot of retired firefighters from different parts of the state. Even if you approve the full-time position, I would recommend that we post the position as
Oh, of course.
full or part-time will be considered, because I don't want to not select the best person who may be retiring but not want to do, a 40-hour
Wants a
work
little
week.
flexibility in their
May want a
hours.
little flexibility, may want to do 20, 30, whatever it is. So I would just want that flexibility to hire the person that is most qualified for the job. You might be able to get a lot more out of 30 hours from somebody that's more qualified than 40 hours out of somebody that is less
But
qualified.
we'll fund the whole thing, and then give you the,
That's,
So
that's
right
my
now-
recommendation, if you
Okay.
decide to go that way.
Just a quick breakdown, and I think Dave's keeping count too. We have plus 3,000 in HR, minus 35,100 in fire, meaning higher in the budget.
You actually, it's more than the 35 because of benefits.
You're talking way over.
Well, I'm just going by
Yeah, so
salary.
so approximately, you're looking at with benefits again.
Hopefully, and again, if they retire from another community, they get
Correct.
benefits from them.
Right.
Yeah.
So you're looking at possibly the 70 becoming anywhere from 80 to 85, depending on what they may elect for benefits, be it medical, dental, pension, and whatnot.
okay, so, I mean, we're so early in this process, so what I'm saying is, John and Fred, show us that we can afford it.
Now, Chief,
And I support it.
let me just throw this out there. If you do hire within, and Councilman Kenyon asked me a question about promotions, and then you eliminate that position a year from now. Another council comes in and says, you know, it is election year, could be 5 new people up here this year. That person, would they have the opportunity to go back into the union, into their old position? Because I know everybody just got promoted.
No, once they're out, that's it.
They would lose the
So I'm just trying to, that's the question he brought up to me, and I didn't know the
only
answer.
reason why I brought it up is because there's something similar in schools where if a teacher becomes an assistant principal or a principal,
They take a leave of absence.
there's usually a provision in the contract or somewhere that allows them, if they lose their job, to go back to their bargain
There's
job.
nothing there now, we could
It just
certainly
needs-
bargain it with the union, if the union wanted to.
Sit down and have that conversation, we could do an MOA to the contract
That's what I
stating
said.
that, and it would be very specific to the person that's offered the position, if the council wanted to go that route, to say that, you know, if after, you know, X amount of year, I mean, I don't think it would be forever, right? It would be a certain time limit on, you know, whether it be within 2 years, 3
And
years,
then what
whatever
would
it is.
happen to that person that took their spot?
That person would
what-
have
that's
to be
what-
hired with the
So you're gonna
understanding.
lose, you're gonna lose
Right
one or
now,
the
though,
other.
they can't go back.
Correct, right now they
Right now,
cannot
they
go back.
That's what, I just wanted to confirm that.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know every line of the contract. I just wanted, he asked me the question, and I wanted to ask you, so,
Right.
you know, I just want to throw it out there.
John, can I ask you one question about the longevity line? I know it's only $1,300, but the manager's line is about $1,300 less. Isn't longevity a finite amount for the year? How can there be a difference?
It is, but there's a proration involved, because we now pay it out, or we now actually calculate it as of the higher, depending on the higher date when you hit your next step for the longevity. For example, rather than just looking at, okay, in June of next year, they'll have the next level. If they don't hit that next level until sometime during the fiscal year, we prorate it. So we don't give credit for a full year if they're hitting the anniversary halfway through.
So you're just saying the
So the
calculation's
departments,
wrong,
yeah,
So the
well,
calculation, yeah, we
the
calculated
departments
a number.
provided what they thought it was,
and that's fine.
and we provided them what it would actually be based upon the personnel.
$1,300, that's the question.
Chief,
Yeah,
imagine
it
take
varies.
water, take over the hydrants.
Well, I heard that possibly, I have to, how do I say this? That this may be billed differently in the future. I guess it's gonna go into the water bills. Because all they're doing is, they're collecting this from the taxpayer,
That's it.
you know, so, and then we're just paying it.
So if they took it over, then who do you think
It'll
is
be-
going
it'll be
to
on- well,
pay for it?
The citizens,
Yeah, and
they're
they'll
still
probably
paying
add a
for it.
little administrative fee on top of it too,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, it'll be 450 instead of 350.
They'll charge the users like $600,000. I'm just speculating, in my opinion.
but we're still charging the users for our budget, so.
Yeah.
Any other questions for the chief? I don't see anything.
Yeah. Okay,
Thank you, chief.
Thank you.
thank you.
All righty. Emergency Management Agency, while
EMA,
you're there.
EMA, wait a minute, what
Page.
let me see this right here.
Page 12.
I want to mark on my list what we're going through. EMA, right here. 12.
Basically, there's no change from the previous year. Sean Henry, who assists in EMA, will be working on, he's waiting word from REMA on a grant.
What's his wage? 43? What does he get paid?
$44.50.
44.50.
Yes.
The increase is they put the payroll tax in there.
Any questions?
Okay, so can we officially approve this one?
Approved.
And hopefully we'll be adding money, grant money into this. We're going to be applying for a grant for EMA directors. It's based on my salary, a percentage,
I saw that.
so just waiting word when we have to submit it.
All right, so we want to hit tax collector, zoning, DPW, we want to do town manager.
It's in order. Are we all over the place on?
Yeah,
Rest,
we're
I
all,
mean, Fred and Johnny pretty much be doing the rest for us, so let's go with tax collector, go in order. Thank you, chief.
Thank you.
Page 16. Yeah, Dave will talk about that.
There will be for the,
Hearings.
the public hearings. Right now, it's just department heads, but if you want to come up real quick, I'll give you 2 seconds.
Well, it's just, and there's nothing on the chief, I just bring in, my guys are concerned, so they asked me to come. I thought it was a public hearing tonight, but
That's fine.
they're concerned that,
Take a chair.
the money that we have given up and the benefits that we've given up for the financial condition of the town is now going to be used to fund another position on the fire department. And it doesn't look like it's going toward a financial problem, but just to fund another position. I'm just bringing what's next door, okay? They're also concerned with that we have a reopening next year. And is this going to be told, well, we created a new position, we really don't have any money. I took a few $1,000 hit on this. And then, at the end of the 5-year agreement, we got our benefits back. So your budget's gonna go, psh. Has there been consideration given to, when those benefits are due back? And that's, I just echo Angelo's concern about the cost. And that's what we're bringing from next door. And if you've considered that and you talk about that, that's great, but those are the concerns that, the firefighters have.
Okay. Take it into consideration. Thanks, Bill.
Thanks.
I think we should keep this to comments like that in public hearing.
Yeah, he was here and I gave the opportunity.
All right, it's not a public hearing.
they're afraid they're gonna get watched, but we can't afford it. Just for that
I
comment.
kind of sensed they
Just for
weren't
that-
happy.
Just for that comment, I'd like to get them.
It's cleared right out.
And you change your mind.
I can sit there and watch it happen.
All right, I see, well, that's taken face value.
For the tax collector, I noticed
Okay.
the OT is
Yeah,
less
actually,
than
was
the
just
manager
waiting
said.
until that settled down, but I was
Yeah.
gonna go through it. But basically, the OT, the, Fred's column, so to speak, or Fred's recommendation is to level it to what it was last year. It has been running high, obviously, as we know, for many years it has been. The main purpose, or main cause for that, I should say, was the staffing that was not addressed. So we have addressed the staffing, we now have the tax collector. We have a floater, so again, we're requesting that it stays level, but we anticipate that between the staffing as well as some procedures and different processes that we're coming up with banking and different things like that, that we're going to look to streamline it, get it down even lower, I should say, streamline operations. One of the biggest complaints that we've gotten from a lot of taxpayers is how long it takes for their checks to be cashed or checks to be applied. So besides the overtime, we have that to deal with, but now with the staffing And with remote deposit services from the bank, we're able to be more efficient and more effective with getting it in, getting the money in the bank. And with Rob, with the floater position, that has been a big help. So we expect that in 17, we can start to see the fruit of those changes come to fruition. But we still anticipate that there may be some overtime that is needed. Again, because we're trying to push everything into those collection cycles.
How is that floater position working? Because I happen to be here Friday, and a comment was said to me, I think, in the clerk's office, I think somebody had called out sick, somebody had taken a day off, and there was only one person was on lunch. There was only one person with a line out the door. And they said whenever they need the floater help, they don't get it. I know,
That wasn't the,
and there was two people in that office at the time. Well, there was two people in that office at the time, so why wouldn't the floater come over and
I did,
help?
can I answer that?
You weren't in the office either, so.
I was not in the office when you were there, but
Yeah.
I was left there alone, myself, because now there was
That's what I'm saying.
nobody left.
That's what I'm saying,
And
Mary.
I went
I'm
over
actually in
and
your
asked for
defense
the,
here.
no,
There
I
was
went over
nobody
and
there.
asked for the floater. I did ask because I'm not supposed to do union work, but I had no staff, everybody was gone. So I went over and asked for the floater, and they said, when you get customers, they would send her over. So they were willing to send her over when customers came in.
Who was
So
gonna
how
send
does
it
that-
over?
It's,
So
the
how
way,
does-
the way it
Assessor.
works, we set it up that, that Karen's office, the HR department, would schedule the floater.
Yep.
So if a department head sees that there's a scheduled absence and they're gonna need the coverage, they request through Karen. Now, if she gets multiple requests from multiple departments, she's gotta base it on need and priority, and someone needs to make that decision. If she's not sure, she'll come talk to me. But basically, that's how it's set up. Now, in an emergency situation, if 3 people call in sick, then we will adjust the schedule based upon the
Well,
need.
how
But
do-
it's
how does
still
the
with the floater,
situation-
we still end up with,
How does the situation, now I know Mary Ann said she asked for it
Mm-hmm.
in case she needed her, but how does the situation when a clerk is in the office by herself, and Mary Ann was not here, and there's a line out the door, and there's 2 people in that office because the floater was sitting at her desk,
Yep.
and Ann was at her desk, how does that person request a floater when she's, what I'm saying is
Too busy to.
too busy to?
she has to. I mean, how do the people in the other office know? I mean, if you're sitting down at a desk in the assessor's office, you don't see the line out the door.
So,
Somebody has to request it. There's no way to know.
So, Mary Ann, I think that's something that you need to tell the clerks in your office if they do run into that bind. And I'm trying, and it wasn't Rachel, because Rachel was there alone, but I forgot who said it, that when they ask for the floor, it never seems to get it in your office.
Yeah, they don't
It
ask.
seems like it,
They don't ask the floater, or they don't ask the office where the floater is. They ask Karen or myself.
That's what I did, I called
We
Karen.
are the ones that because the floater works under my office, okay? So I'm the one that directs it. Ultimately, I delegate that to Karen.
so again, that employee would stop for a second,
Call
your office.
call
say,
Libby
"You
and
know,
say, look, we need somebody down here right away. Can Fred move the floater? I would do it.
I called Karen, she told me to call Christine. So I ran across the hall to Christine and said, I'm alone, because I forget Rachel had left, and Paula had left. So I'm not supposed to be doing this work, and I was doing the work, because people were coming in. So the minute I
Yeah,
had a
you can't
chance,
let
I
the
ran
people
across.
wait.
No, I can't.
And we made that clear, and
But I told
everybody
them
does
that,
that.
and they
So.
said, well, you can't do union work, so call
Well,
No,
us
yeah,
when
that's
she
not
get,
true.
when you get paid. But I just kept working, I worked
I
for
can
12
tell you
hours.
right now, Rachel handled the situation very well.
Yeah.
She did.
I was there, and she actually asked, it was kind of funny, she goes, hey, if anybody has any complaints with the town, there's a town council president, if you want to talk to him. And I was here to sign some papers, she was just joking around. But, 2 actually complimented her because she was doing double duty,
Right.
trying to keep them both going, get them both out of here at the same time. But there was 6 people in line, and, she was
It
trying
was
to
a
get.
tough day for Fred. We didn't expect that, and nobody expected that I would ever be in the office alone. I did a whole hour by myself because I just didn't have time to run in there and get her.
I
So
know
something like
family
that.
emergencies and all that happen,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
but I'm just
And-
wondering how the floater works.
Yeah.
Because I know we authorized this floater last year, and I want to make sure it's being
And it's
utilized.
been working very well. I mean, most departments are
And
very
and I
happy
can,
with it.
I can also add to that there's been times before where we may have had the floater and something came up, whether it was an assessor's, or I don't know that it was necessarily clerks, but there was something that came up where the floater was needed elsewhere. So Karen communicated that to Rose or myself and said, look, I know Robin is, supposed to be with you today, but something came up, can we pull her back and, make it up to you another day or whatever? So there is a lot of
I'm not
flexibility
here
like
40
that.
hours a week, I
Yeah.
just witnessed it for
Yeah.
about a
Yeah.
half hour. And I was
That was a
like, wow,
fluke day that I don't think
No,
will ever
it-
happen again.
I walked in, there was only one person in the office, I
Crazy.
said, where is
Yeah,
everybody?
Yeah, but we're all running
Go to
around
the
like
tape.
idiots.
You know, I asked where everybody was, and I was told one had a day off, one was sick, one was on lunch, and it was just her, so. I was like,
And the only other thing on overtime that I want to bring up, that I don't know if any other council member gets calls on, but, other employees I get calls. Finance has all the overtime they want, they have every day overtime, town clerk's office. I mean, by this,
We don't have we only have mandatory overtime for elections.
I'm just saying,
I don't let people
right,
work overtime.
when I,
John, you want to explain your overtime? 'Cause
Sure. We
Angela
did-
did bring this to me a few weeks ago.
yeah, I said, I'm getting the calls, you getting the calls? I said, what's going on?
The overtime was higher than anticipated or expected back in, leading up till December, January, and November and October as well, because of the fact that we did implement the new HR payroll system. And with this particular company, instead of actually paying them the consulting fee, they have us, or they had staff actually do a lot of the setup and whatnot, which helped them to understand the system better, but unfortunately led to overtime that we didn't expect during that time. Now, since then, the overtime has dropped back to where it should be within finance, especially payroll, so to speak, because that's where a majority of it was. There have been a few occasions that it may have come up during tax time in terms of getting the W-2s out and so forth, but that is not something that's expected to continue. It was something that did take place because of that system implementation.
Just had to bring it up.
But then again, it was less expensive to pay staff the overtime and more beneficial that they knew the system than having a consultant come in and do the work for them.
That's all, I just wanted to
Yep.
clarify that.
No problem.
Thank you, John.
Yeah, I mean, other than that, as far
You
as,
can't have one person make more than the other, in this town.
Oh, yeah.
You know that, right? God forbid.
Well, I know you brought it up to me, and I talked to John,
Mm-hmm.
he gave me his explanation,
Mm-hmm.
and I thought it was good enough, so I really didn't make any beef about it.
and included, obviously, in this budget, it does now have the full-time collector position. And when we switched last year, we actually took Candy, or one of the accounts payable position, put her back into finance and did bring in another body and, a
Wait,
new
musical
person.
chairs down there.
Yeah, oh yeah, we've been doing a lot of changes to, again, try to be more efficient, more effective
Your office
separation.
is hiding, I wanna know why your office is the one hiding in the back right-hand corner instead of the left-hand corner.
There's all the selectors are on the
Where I
other side
can,
where the
where I
window
can
is.
see you when I walk in, you know?
It made sense that the finance director be sitting in the finance designated area of that spot, so, that plus, we did need to give Rose, the collector, an office for meeting with constituents that may have concerns and different things like that, so. But those, most of that work is pretty much wrapped up now, there's just a few minor things we're doing now. Again, trying to make the office, more efficient, more effective, and have people where they should be, being able to see the counter. One of the problems we were having was one of the tax collector clerks actually couldn't even see at the counter because she was so far down to the finance side. So all things like that that made sense for the office. We're also looking into, Rose is now looking into a secure or some type of a shield at the counter from the taxpayers in terms of, God forbid there's a grab and run or whatever you want to call it, theft, dealing with being that they deal with cash and whatnot. So we are looking into that. And we do have some tax sale fees that we collect that we could actually
Yeah, but that's
potentially
when we get our
offset the
money
cost
back.
of that safety upgrade. And, just trying to make the office, and provide the office with everything, all the tools it does need, to run and be able to collect efficiently and get those checks in the bank, so to speak. Included in this as well, or included in your binder, you will see a detail for some of the conferences and some of the fees or dues actually that Rose has requested, and Fred and I support. It's pretty basic. It's just one conference in August and a dues associated with that conference, as well as the dues for the local tax collectors association.
Any questions for John? Good job, Rose. Let's go to zoning. That could be easy.
Page 26.
Well, Fred gave me an increase of 14.
And that's the agenda management is a big piece there. Everything else is,
Yeah, the original, or the amount last year for, or the department, I should say, the amount that we had received was, the request was not enough to cover the actual cost per the schedule that's provided there for their portion.
They're not streaming though, are they?
they will be.
Good, okay,
Everyone will be.
good.
Some of them, it's, some of those boards that don't meet a lot, it's harder to get everybody on board with it, but everybody will be streaming.
Good. Okay. That's the goal.
Yep. Some of the, it's funny, the reaction of some of the board members,
Well, did you see, yeah,
bench board members, no. They're
Yeah.
like, yeah. And they're like, but we don't want to be on TV.
did you see the email that I sent you today? Did you get a chance to read that? A constituent, you know who I'm
Yes.
talking about, asked all these questions. I mean, like, and I wasn't here, I didn't attend, but like, if it was recorded, she probably would have had the answer. I couldn't possibly answer all the questions that she had.
And unfortunately, that whole meeting was done at the senior center because we
Yeah.
were meeting here.
That's why we need a portable.
Correct.
All right, you get any word on that portable yet?
They haven't announced it.
No? Okay.
Because there's only two person. Did anybody see the video that, I forgot what show I saw it on this weekend, where they had a two-member board, they held a meeting, it was on camera, it was live. I forgot what community it was in, I have to go back and look at it. It was on one of those late night shows, like 2 in the morning on the weekend. And it showed, it actually had the Coventry fire chief situation, it was a joke, but he's a British guy. We brought up his name before.
Oh, Ferguson. What's his name? He used to have his own lake show.
What is it?
Corbin?
Yes.
Corbin.
So it was his show. They showed a live video of a meeting. It was two gentlemen. It was a two-board meeting. And they got up, they did prayer, they did pledge allegiance, they held the meeting, and they said all in favor, and there's nobody in the crowd.
Which reminds me, don't forget, Mr. Manager, before we leave,
Yeah, John Oliver.
we need to open up the view of this camera number one,
Yeah.
so that people can see the huge crowd that we have
Right.
here tonight. All
Right.
right,
Fisheye lens.
I want to put that on, you know, for posterity.
Well, you gotta remember, Ed,
Ben, you can call me whatever you want.
whatever you want. Wasn't a public hearing tonight, you didn't want anybody to speak, so they didn't come.
It's going to change that. Okay, good, it's
Yeah,
going to
gonna
change.
All right, what do we?
All right, zoning's all set.
This is why we put it on TV.
DPW, there's some changes in there that we need to talk about.
Where we going?
Yeah, that's what they're doing here. They're all home watching.
Page 21.
DPW.
Okay.
The big change in this one is we've added an assistant director position. The purpose of the position is multifaceted. A big piece of it is to cover this individual, and in combination with Dave's position, will be able to cover the running of the Department of Parks and Rec as well. So you'll see that a portion of this individual's salary is located here. There's a portion in Parks and Rec, and there's a portion in the Civic Center budget. And the reason is that the idea would be that that would allow both Dave's position and the assistant position to serve as oversight for all of those areas. And we've had the conversation with Dave, and he feels with another person on board, that would be very doable. And I think it's more than we had with just Ray on board doing it. But I think we need to devote more to our recreation department. There's a lot going on. And so that's the reasoning for this position.
And if I could just add to what, expand on that, the DPW portion of that position is 60%. So if you look at the personnel supplement, you'll see assistant director proposed, and you'll see a $36,000 salary. That represents 60% of $60,000
Is
proposed.
this a union position?
No,
No.
Is this person an engineer?
Putting it on record.
no.
No.
In the past, we've had assistants. I think the last one we had was Ken. Was he the last one? Angela?
Who?
Kenny?
No, Kevin.
Kevin, no. Kevin, who?
Kevin Race. No, he wasn't, that's right, he didn't
It
get
was,
assistant.
Dave was the last
Ken,
one.
No, there was
Ken Bertrand.
Ken Bertrand.
Okay.
Dave was already in the position, Ken
Right.
Bertrand was backing him.
and we eliminated it when we brought Dave up, and
One of the reasons I've talked to Fred, you know, and don't get me wrong, Ray did the best he could for what he had, and, you know, he went up there every morning. But again, I talked to Fred early in the year about moving Parks and Rec over to DPW. Only makes sense. I mean, DPW and Parks and Rec are right there and pretty much the next parking lot over, and they go there every
we'll
morning.
keep him instead of being home.
There's no supervision throughout the day. And don't get me wrong, they do a very good job for what little they have. There's 3 guys, basically, and some part-timers. And 3 guys taking care of all the ball fields, the soccer fields, you name it. They're nonstop. I know 2 out of the 3 are constantly nonstop. I never see the 3rd one. It's because it's either at night or whatever. But I've seen it, but again, sometimes they need direction. And, you know, Ray would go home at 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, whatever time he was going home. You know, he was here at 7, leaving at 3:30. You know, and they were here till 4:35, sometimes 6. Then we have a second shift with no direction.
We need to be in sync.
And that's, and I think personally, it also helps a guy like Dave Lombari, who've had a, knock on wood, a good winter. It's over, hopefully.
Yeah, it's,
But if you guys all remember last February, I said to Fred, I said, Dave is cranky, but he's not cranky because he's miserable about his job. It's because we're taxing him to death, and he's putting in 90 hours a week in the month of February. But with an assistant on with him, you know, he can go home. You know, this year he's been very sick. Thank God we haven't had a very bad winter, but, you know, between his personal stuff and, you know, he's had to help, you know, the guys down there, Cheeseburger, Freddie, and them guys have all stepped up to the plate to help Dave, even though when he's out of work, and they've done a good job. But again, you gotta have somebody there supervising, and also, in all 3, and we put an ice rink and field house in there too. You know, Doug's doing it, but with somebody overseeing Doug, you know, he's got direction.
Oversight of the whole thing.
Yeah.
That's what this is about. And Dave's been doing that for me now,
Yeah.
and Duffy and everything, but it's too much.
Yep.
for-
And
no,
Duffy's
I
been helping.
agree.
Duffy has.
I mean, I don't know sometimes how long the day is. I probably am the biggest culprit of them all that calls him at least 2 times a day. And,
That's why he's aggravated when I call him.
no, when I don't call him in a day, he calls me, you mad at me? That's how, that's the truth. But I don't know how he does it with the little that he does, everything. I mean, that's 90% of our complaints with our constituents is DPW. And, you know, there's never once that I ever called.
They're not complaining about DPW, they're complaining about issues that involve DPW.
Right.
Okay. And again, we
I don't see a problem.
now, Fred, I got a question for you.
You
Is
know.
DPW coming over to Public Works?
You mean rec?
In other words, yeah, I mean, a rec coming over to Public Works, because, for instance, if a guy calls out sick, we need somebody to go work on the bike paths.
I think they should all meet at DPW.
Well, they do now, but again, like, say if Tony, I'm just throwing, Tony calls out sick, but yet his job today was to clean the bike path.
Right.
Can somebody from DPW move over to that and go clean the bike path? I know right now, there's union stuff, but
It's something we're gonna move
To-
towards
okay.
with the next negotiation session and try to get some more flexibility there for that reason. But for right now, it'll just be, you know, it'll be managed under there. We're gonna keep the budget separate. One of the things we're doing too, we're reviewing now, just, Ed, you might be interested in this, we're reviewing recreational software, cloud-based software products that'll allow for all the field scheduling, the team scheduling, for all the facilities. And teams will actually be able to set up their profiles, and they can select their fields, and they can pay online.
Yeah.
That'll take a lot of the onus off of like Duffy and those people that are doing that now.
And bring us to the 21st century. too.
Correct.
Yeah.
So we're looking at, there's a couple different products out there devoted just for the recreation industry, and there's some, decent ones. So, and the payment for it, our fee comes off of when people pay their bill for the fee, for the field, so they actually just do a surcharge. So it's really, can be done at no additional cost to us, the way that they're set up. So we're looking at several options. We'll present those to you once we've looked at 2 or 3 of them and present that to you. But we're looking at ways to streamline it and, like Ed said, bring it to the 21st century because it's long overdue. So.
General wages has a variance between department and manager. What caused that?
Mechanic salary too, from last year to this year.
Well, that's different, but yeah, I'm wondering, is that why?
I'm sorry.
That's okay. One of the reasons is we prorated, originally Dave had the assistant here at the 60,000 versus the 60% or whatnot.
Oh.
And he also had initially included, what's her first name? Oh my God, the recycling coordinator. Nicole's salary here. However, we're looking to actually have her be paid out of a recycling fund because we receive recycling revenue. So basically, those are the changes.
Perfect.
We allocated the way it should be. And just to comment on that assistant director, besides the 60% of the salary, the benefits are also allocated at 60%. So if there is a medical or anything like that, it's 60 here, 20 at recreation or parks when we get to parks.
Yep.
And then we do plan to have that other 20% as part of a civic center budget, which will not be in the general fund because it's own enterprise fund, but it'll be a separate budget.
Gotcha. And then, like, I think Dave was talking about this mechanic's salary from last year to this year is up 40.
I believe Dave said there's one mechanic that was out last year.
Yeah, we have a situation where we had a mechanic that was on extended workers' comp.
Okay.
We cannot, and we were already at bare bones in the mechanics, so we had to bring in another mechanic. So it's showing as the additional position. Ultimately, we need the position, so we did keep it in to add it in. So once this guy is done with workers' comp, and he's not coming back, but we want to rehire in his position because
So not only was it a vacant position, but it was also taken out of the budget.
Correct.
Okay. So now it's just,
Yep.
Yeah, you do it for 13. Any other questions?
And the other difference is in the fuel or petroleum.
yeah, that's been across all.
Increase that.
We decreased it, yeah. Okay.
All right. Let's move on to town engineer.
We don't have one.
Page 23.
So there's a general wages item here. That's basically for the part-time individual that we spoke about with this road bond. We need a real engineer to oversee this whole process. So from the bid specs, and we've had someone working on that. He was the former town engineer in Smithfield, retired. So he put together a bid spec package. You can go up online and look at it. It's like, we went from 3 pages to a document like that, which is where it should be for what we're asking for. It has all the protections, all the specifications, all the protocols that go with testing and things of that nature, and we'll just be providing oversight. This is probably more than we need. He's basically on board for, probably 5 or 10 hours a week at a busy week. He's did more the last few weeks because he's helping us put these specs together. But he agreed to come and do this for $40 an hour. Registered engineer with 40 years of experience. I started the conversation by saying, would you do it for 75? And he said, I'll do it for 40.
Does he live in town?
He lives in Warwick.
Good for him.
So,
Appreciate it.
so he's going to help us out, and it's obviously very qualified, and so we just put that in. And basically, the focus is on that, on those roads. He's also available, though, if we want him to review subdivision plan or, a development plan, because we haven't had an engineer on board for a while. So just to have that set of eyes to kind of check everything. So that's what that item is, and that's really, the payroll taxes go with that. Everything else is the same as previous years.
Fred, does this engineer in any way reduce the amount of fees for consulting that we do?
Absolutely. Yeah,
Okay,
because
so
right
it's
now,
almost-
basically, this will be coming out of right now, what we do is any kind of road inspection or things like that, we send Jim Jeremy out. But all due respect to Jim's firm, it's very expensive, and his expertise is in other areas. He's in, basically in water and sewer, and he's mechanical, whereas this is a civil engineer that
Yeah,
we
we're gonna
want
save a lot of money.
with experience with roads. And I know firsthand, having been the planning director in Smithfield when Mr. Geldard was the town engineer, he rode those construction companies like nobody's business. They hated him because he'd be out there going, says 2 inches, I want 2 inches, do it again. We need that kind of, oversight. Even if it's spot checking, it's going to be a big difference, so.
To make sure that this $5 million isn't
Correct.
wasted.
And that's why, I think it's important to protect the investment of the taxpayers here. It's a small price when you're looking at a $5 million road bond, to have somebody on board that knows
100%.
what he's doing and has the expertise to kind of just go out and just double check. And he's willing to train Dave's assistant, if the council decides to go ahead and hire that position, to inspect the roads as he would. So he's going to take them out and go through so that we're not paying him to go out all the time. We can send the assistant out.
Train both, Dave and
Absolutely. But I don't know if Dave's going to be a willing learner as some other people might be.
Okay, that ought to be fun.
Please, 20 of 9.
Cox and Rec.
What number's that one?
30.
Get rid of this first. Crossing off the ones we've done off over here so we can keep
Was there a wage miscalculation?
No, this is the addition of that percentage that we talked about for the assistant. So there's a certain percentage of that assistant comes in this budget, and that's reflected here. And
overtime.
it's basically,
Yeah, the assistant director portion here in this budget is about 12,000, or is 12,000.
and again, the idea, we left the 5,000 in for the director position because we would like Dave to still serve in that capacity that Ray was doing, but more in the oversight, and it'll be a shared responsibility between the assistant director and the director. So that hasn't changed, but we added the amount for the assistant,
So
its share.
Dave will serve as director and get that stipend.
Correct.
So would this be the appropriate account to add on a line item, special events?
Yes. Assuming it's a, public event on a town property.
Celebration for the people, fireworks.
Yep.
Whatever, something,
It would be.
if we can, get a committee to pull it off. But
And what did you estimate the cost? I remember we talked
well,
about it.
I'm thinking.
7
because
or
we
10
have-
grand.
No, more than that. Fireworks alone are gonna be, because they've gone up a little bit, but the fireworks
I
alone.
think we can get it for the same price.
10,000. Yeah, 10,000, okay.
Donations.
Right, and then,
Yeah.
no, that's a
Yeah.
possibility.
It doesn't hurt to have some seed money.
Yeah.
It's a possibility to get sponsors, and I think we can, but that's going to take organization
Correct.
and leadership to do that. And I'd be happy to be part of it, but.
Yeah, it's a lot of work.
be
Yeah.
the
Well, I know that
leader. I'll
you'll
help
notice
out.
that there's an item down there for the concert series at the gazebo,
Yeah,
and there's no funding there, and that's because we get donations
You
to
get
cover it all now.
donations, right.
But that's been running for a while, and that's up, but it's gonna take a while to get
that's what
this
I
other
think.
celebration up and running,
That's
so we're
what I
gonna have to
think.
seed
But we might
it.
be able to get a Cotties or
Sure.
something like that, an op-in, to celebrate, some type of celebration that the people can count on every single year. Right? Like, this isn't reinventing the wheel. Municipalities everywhere do it. And, whether their funding is from the general fund or from donations. I really like to start it so that everybody seems to have a great time,
That was the best.
right? So I'd like to.
They still talk about it, they still ask
Yeah.
me. They-
I
they
thought
go,
20, I thought we'd put 25 in there, but, you know, and try to get donations for it.
Oh, there goes
But
the
like, if you're gonna
assistant
if you're gonna have, huh?
There goes the assistant chief.
Oh, no, no. No, but, I mean, we know the fireworks cost 10. We know this, we had a lot of in-kind last year, a lot of in-kind last year.
The only real cost was the fireworks and the band.
And the
staging,
police.
Or did they bring
And
all
police. Yeah, police. And, you know, there was incidentals, the band, right? But I like to put something in there anyway. I mean, you know, if you
Yeah, I
if
would
you
like
want to fund it through,
somewhere between 10 and 15 seed, I think is fair to start with.
okay,
In this, you want it in this budget?
special events
Okay.
or special event.
Yeah. Got some ideas. Just don't have the time.
You got the whole summer off.
Hey, we just found our coordinator.
Well, if we're going to, yeah,
Those golf balls aren't gonna hit themselves.
yeah, right, exactly. But if we're going to, I mean, if we're going to do it for September, which, I mean, there's a lot of competition for events in September, a lot, all the way from New Hampshire down.
August, even
For
more in
food,
August.
for food trucks and things like that. But that's what you'd have to look at. It's still a lot, you know, what you want to do, what you want to provide. You want bands, you want a battle of the bands, you want, you know,
Well,
like the chorus
I
to
was
come
just
in.
gonna say, I know Senator Satchel called me, I don't know, a few months back, and they were looking at doing a vendor truck, where all different vendors come in.
Yeah.
You know, he was looking, but he was also looking at, you know, they wanted to do a one-day event with the town, so maybe this is something we could do, but they didn't wanna buy that $300 and $400
Licenses.
license for one day to come into town to do this event, and,
We adjusted that last when we did the fees.
yeah.
Well, you need a
We just
draw
want a one
But
day.
maybe it's something we can adjust. with
where they're
this.
gonna make, where they're gonna make the money. I
Right,
mean,
and
you
we're
know,
also doing it for the people too,
Right.
that attend. So
I
if
mean,
we
they're
have to
gonna
lower
sell,
those-
if you got a draw, they're gonna make well above that money.
Right?
We
At
got
the
a
event.
coordinator.
Hey, Wicked Good Deals, West Warwick. Jay Messi.
Wow.
Yes. You have 10,000 people there.
Well, so you can promote it. Yeah,
He will, don't get me wrong.
yeah, I
but-
think he would anyway.
No, I don't.
Yeah, he put it on that site.
Well, he's not making money on that site, so.
That's what I need next time, I need a highlighter.
You can use
I don't know how he's making money at all.
Change your own to advertise.
I'm gonna need it.
I'll get one thing after a while.
Well, I need one to leave in here, so I know I got it every,
It's one thing,
The model isn't new. The model is,
next one.
yeah.
All right, any questions for Park and Recs besides adding 15,000 for special events?
We said 10.
10 to 15.
10 to 15? Okay.
Sounds good.
There's 10 for fireworks, so.
Talked about donations too as an offset, so I just wanted to know what amount.
Probably get it all.
The thing is, some of these donations for the large companies, they have to plan usually a year in advance to give it, because they're already
Okay.
drained.
Well, unless you hit,
You know?
Make their budgets up already.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, their budgets
Well,
are
they build in
usually,
their budgets, I know, like, Cox did the 100-year,
then let's do it.
and,
I'll work with
but,
it.
I mean,
Let's do it. All right,
I'm
15
sure that we can-
15,000.
15, okay.
and then, to be honest with you, if we get all in-kind donations, that 15,000 could be a,
Reallocate or put back to general.
yeah.
No, I've already got a source of revenue for you guys right off the bat, almost, probably over 10,000. That's
Or
the
more than
banners.
that.
The banners. Those locations belong to the town. I mean, we put them on telephone poles, all right? A private citizen couldn't do that,
My banner being
all right?
like.
So the banners, it's very profitable. It's gonna make us probably about, between $9,000 to $11,000 on those banners. So it's time to refresh them anyway. So, you know, we've
Yeah,
got
there's a
all,
lot of them on the street blown away now.
no, it's not a lot of them. You know, it's
Every one at River Point's gone.
yeah, they're almost
There's
all
only a
native
few
too.
left.
They're missing a native too, I haven't seen them in so long. That last windstorm really put the end to it
There's been a
all.
couple of survived though, so
Yeah.
whatever
Very-
direction that's aimed.
Very few,
Yeah, right.
didn't hit it, yeah.
Got a good value on that.
All right,
All right,
what's
town
next?
manager,
Page 4.
page 4.
What's our time limit on that?
This is it. Last
We're all done.
Wow, good job.
What, page 4?
my anniversary, by the way, guys. 41
Happy
years.
anniversary.
Thank you.
And you get to spend it with us. How nice
Yep,
is that?
yep, yep.
What, Jerry?
Yep, the little woman's not happy.
We're gonna
about it.
call Jerry and say, hey, how come Ed didn't show up at the council meeting tonight?
Ed took 2 pills tonight.
Yeah, yeah.
Town planner, why am I on a planner?
Page
4.
Last year to this year, general wages, about $20,000 drop. Town manager, right?
Yep.
What happened?
I believe in the previous budget, we had, in general wages, we had included the floater position plus benefits.
Okay.
Got shifted to HR.
Yeah.
Correct.
All right.
Well, the benefits got shifted to the appropriate line item,
Correct.
and the salaries is just, the number you see for the 79,112 is basically just the positions that are listed in the personnel supplement.
Oh,
For the salaries, and then the benefits are where the benefits should be.
Fred, I'm gonna, number 1 camera wide angle.
I could go for it.
I'm listening. So, I mean, all in all, no big difference
That's
here.
pretty much the same.
We're under budget, 5-year plan. Any other discussion on that? Any questions for Fred? Now, Councilman Giroux is in the back,
Setting the camera.
setting the camera to show the public on how big our audience is tonight.
We didn't stop zoning, do carries here.
We did zoning.
We did zone.
Did zoning?
Yeah, we did them all. We didn't miss any.
Zoning was nothing.
We didn't miss anything.
Beautiful.
I gotta put this.
Any other discussion?
There's our crowd.
Motion to adjourn.
second.
I have a motion to adjourn. Do I have a second from Councilman Kennahan? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Fred,
Ayes have it.
I forgot to call you. I was
Thank everybody
with
for coming tonight.
Mayor DeRosa from Central Falls.
That's why they passed the big bus.
Can you send me?
Sad, sad, sad. No, sad, not stopping.